My friends, as you all know, I'm a fighter. Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians, I care deeply about this country, and I will always be motivated by what is in the best interest of Canadians. Every morning I've woken up as Prime Minister. I've been inspired by the resilience, the generosity, and the determination of Canadians. It is the driving force of every single day I have the privilege of serving in this office. That is why, since 2015, I've fought for this country, for you, to strengthen and grow the middle class. Why we rallied to support each other through the pandemic, to advance reconciliation, to defend free trade on this continent, to stand strong with Ukraine and our democracy, and to fight climate change and get our economy ready for the future. We are at a critical moment in the world. My friends, as you all know, I'm a fighter. Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians, I care deeply about this country, and I will always be motivated by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And the fact is, despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralysed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election. The Liberal Party of Canada is an important institution in the history of our great country and democracy. A new Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party will carry its values and ideals into that next election. I'm excited to see the process unfold in the months ahead. We were elected for the third time in 2021 to strengthen the economy post-pandemic and advance Canada's interests in a complicated world. And that is exactly the job that I and we will continue to do for Canadians. Merci beaucoup, mes amis.
We have a weak Prime Minister who's lost control of everything. He's lost control of the borders, lost control of immigration, and lost control of spending. Recently it came to light that the deficit is much bigger than his finance minister reported in the recent budget. Now, the Prime Minister claims that he can't tell us what the deficit is for this year. Okay, so we'll make it easier for him. What was the deficit last year?
Yeah.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we see the lengths to which the Conservative leader will go to not talk about the fact that we are proposing a tax break for Canadians over the coming months. Because he's going to vote against that, Mr. Speaker. He's going to vote against direct help for families at the grocery store, with children's clothes, with supports for Canadians in everyday expenses. Why? Because he'd rather continue to see Canadians suffer, because maybe that'll help him get elected, rather than actually solve the challenges that Canadians are facing, where we're stepping up to deliver on dental care, on school foods, on initiatives that directly help workers. That's what we'll continue to do.
To show how weak he is, he actually has to read a script just to talk about his tiny 2-month tax break. My question a moment ago, though, was about the deficit. He admits that deficits contribute to inflation. We now have reports from the parliamentary budget officer that he appointed showing that the deficit is far bigger than he advertised in his last budget. So once again, I'll ask slowly, what was Canada's federal deficit last year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'll take no lessons from someone who stays up late every night rehearsing his little performances in the mirror. The fact, Mr. Speaker, is we're continuing to step up for Canadians because we have the lowest deficit in the G7. We have the best debt to GDP ratio and are projected to have the strongest growth in the G7 ahead of the United States next year. These are things that we've done because we've been investing not just in Canadians and support for them, but also in drawing in global investment. Third largest foreign direct investment in the world last year, Mr. Speaker. People investing in Canada because they believe in Canadians. Why doesn't the Leader of the Opposition believe in Canadians?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I know the Prime Minister said that he'll leave the economy to bankers. Well, the bankers are sure rolling in cash, collecting interest on the national debt that he has already doubled, while Canadians line up at food banks.
Right.
The question, though, was about the size of the deficit. You cannot run a $500 billion G7 government if you don't know anything about the finances of that government. So can the Prime Minister tell us, does he actually know the size of the deficit?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we are focused on is delivering for Canadians, is being there to recognize that Canadians need support now as we build a stronger future for them. That's why we're drawing in global investment to a higher rate than just about any other country per capita in the G20. We are delivering things that make a real difference in Canadians' lives, like dental care, like a school food program, like more spaces in childcare at $10 a day, like a tax break for the next 2 months, like direct support for workers. All things, Mr. Speaker, that the Conservatives are voting against because they care more about themselves than they do about Canadians.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he doesn't know.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't know. No, he doesn't.
I was tempted to accuse him of hiding it, but you know, as Napoleon Bonaparte said, never attribute to malice what can be explained by incompetence.
Yep.
Mr. Speaker, who's actually running this government?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, while the Leader of the Opposition continues to focus on me, I'm going to stay focused on delivering for Canadians, delivering a tax break for the next few months that will help Canadians with the cost of everything, deliver on supports for workers, deliver on supports for seniors, deliver on supports for youth. These are all things that the Conservative Party votes against. Not because Conservative MPs don't care about these things, but because they've been throttled and muzzled by their leader so that they can't actually be their community's voice in Ottawa. They're there to be their leader's voice in their communities. Shame on them, Mr. Speaker.
Right.